Wet, maybe because it's champagne here in Philly, it's chocolate milk. And I apologize for being wet. I really don't apologize. I love being wet.
Brett, knowing the journey you, this organization, and also the fans have been on through the last few years, walking off your home court with a playoff series victory, just what was going through your head when you're walking off the court?
I mean, just how proud I am of our organization. You know, I was hired in 2013, and I sat with Josh Harris and David Blitzer and a few of the other owners, and we talked about the vision, what we hope to build, and through rough times, through adversity for sure, we didn't blink. You know, and we stayed strong in what we were trying to do and to sort of walk off that court, like you say. And, you know, we got more to do. We got more to give. We're excited for sure. And there was a sense of just gratitude and proud of all of us for staying together. Owners, team, direction that we're heading. We didn't blink. We didn't pivot out of what we said we were going to do. And I think slowly we're reaping the benefit of that.
Brett on your right. Brett on your right.
Marcus.
You spoke before the game about needing to play together and to be tough and to not complain. There was a point in the game early in the third quarter where Ben got hit in the head, and he didn't go one-on-one with a guy, and Joel Embiid didn't go one-on-one with a guy. You stayed sort of true to your system. Is that the maturity you were talking about earlier when we met with you earlier?
It is, and there were probably, I don't know, at least 4 incidents that you could have done something that you regretted. You could have, you know, there could have been ejections. There could have been things that would have had repercussions in future games if we were able to get through this series. And the discipline, the discussion that we have had with our group, you know, I was with the Spurs team where Robert Horry hip checks Nash into the scorer's table, and they had won 62 games that year, and Amari and Boris just step about a foot, maybe less, on the court, and they're suspended for the next game. And we win, and we come back to San Antonio and close it out. They could have won an NBA championship that year. You know, you look at situations all across the league and trying to hold our composure. And it's hard in general, let alone for young guys. And I thought that we withstood the physicality of the Miami Heat team. They're a great organization. They came to mean it. We knew they wouldn't go away easily. And we had to have that physical element to match. But I thought the composure, dealing with some of those things that you spoke of, Marcus, is true, and I think it's a tremendous learning opportunity again for especially our young guys.
Coach, you just spoke on the physicality. What can you take from the physical lessons that Miami taught you and you can apply them to later playoff series?
I mean, you have to have purposeful offense in the playoffs because everything is a fist fight. And I think all those things that we talked about throughout the series with being ball strong, you know, taking a fist and a forearm and being able to create a lead, understanding the need to set tremendous screens and set up proper angles to receive balls, you could see they stood us up. And we had the real taste of it in Game 2. And last game, you know, we had 7 turnovers. You know, a lot of it was generated through their physicality. And so that is the playoffs. It's a snapshot to what's always going to be the playoffs. And it only gets harder when you advance and you advance. And so how do you run purposeful offense especially is always on my mind. I think that our defense was pretty good for the very, very large majority of the game. But it is rough. It's rough scoring. It's really rough scoring in the playoffs.
Brett, right in front of you. Brett, do you notice at all during the game Meek Mill dancing with Jeffrey Lurie, dancing with the governor, Kevin Hart? Do you see those? And if whether you do or not, what do you think of the fact this team has kind of captured the imagination of celebrities, the fans, kids, and the ride to the city on?
And we all, you know, got a taste of it with the Eagles, and then we got another taste of it with Villanova's tremendous win. And you feel it with the city from afar. Sometimes you're in, the beat of the street, the pulse of the city, but you feel it. And to generate our own interest and generate our own momentum and feel like you can actually give something back to the city and the fans that endured with us. Like, it takes a village. This whole thing takes an organization and a committed city and all of that. And to feel our home court, we knew that if we could fight for home court, and then we got greedy and wanted third, as that regular season was winding down, that it would provide a platform that you can't even quantify. It's just a vibe. And this city and this building and the fans were unbelievable tonight, and I know they will continue to be. Everybody's excited to sort of be a part of what I think is playing out to be, albeit early days, a pretty cool story.
Brett, you talked about the maturity of Joel and Ben Simmons. How much did the veterans that were added from the beginning of the season and throughout help them through what really could have been a difficult series if they didn't have guys to kind of tell them to stay under control?
It's all that. And so the stuff, Howard, that you're saying, I see in two ways. I see first, like the quiet messaging I can hear Amir Johnson share with the young guys being in Miami, the pitfalls and the dangers of being in that city. And what are you going to do, making sure everybody gets rest? And you hear about, different things going on in the game, adjusting to the physicality from JJ and Marco and Amir, et cetera. And then you go to the court, and like tonight, there was a 4-minute drought in the fourth period that, you're wondering where you're going to get a bucket from, how you're going to score. And, Marco hits that big basket to break a drought, and then JJ's got a backbreaker with the 3-ball. And, on court, off court, there is nothing like veteran presence. There's nothing like veteran minds. And I just am very, very grateful to our veterans, and the ones that we picked up late have had a significant impact on us sitting here right now.
Hey, Brett, do you kind of feel like your team passed an initiation of sorts, not just the first round, but the style and everything getting through this?
I mean, I have had a strong belief about my personal opinion of how the game should be played. Like, I like playing a certain way on offense, and I like playing a certain way on defense. And, the management and the owners have let me do that. And so, the culture and style of play, at some point, I think they coexist and they morph into one. At the start, it's to me, they're different. Like the behavior off the floor and what you're doing with the guys in treatment development, that's a little bit different. Like, how do we play offense and how do we play defense? And I feel proud that there is no mystery of how we want to play either offense or defense. And, you have to stand for something or you're going to fall for anything. And I think we stand for something on offense and in defense. And that interests me. I'm proud of how we play. And I think that it is built in for the playoffs. It can sustain playoff intensity. And I hope that our guys and our fans enjoy it. And the style of play is something that we're proud of.
Brett, you're moving into the next round. Any thoughts on Boston and Milwaukee? I know that they're still playing, but they're two teams that you're familiar with.
I really don't have thoughts except that they, we got a fist fight coming again. And, we've had a tremendous battle with Boston this whole season. And we've had some kind of erratic games with Milwaukee. I think if you look at the roster and who actually played, you could better understand that. We just know that we got something coming around the corner that's going to be even more difficult. And as I've said, a lot, I think, the last few days, this group has more to give. This group has more to grow. And the longer we can buy time and continue playing, the longer Joel Embiid will get used to his mask and start playing basketball again after 3 weeks out. And the team will learn in I think, an expedited way when you're in such a rigorous, competitive environment as the playoffs. And it all adds up into, I think we're going to get better. I really think that we're going to get better.
Brett, you had mentioned veteran presence, and I understand all that, but you had young guys that had never been in this situation. They had everything kind of thrown at them from game 2 on, and withstood all that. What's that say about their level of maturity and being able to take what was thrown at them and survive all that, endure, and win a playoff series?
And I think it speaks mostly to team. There is a kind of security blanket that they provide each other. The team is very close. They can absorb mistakes. They can handle pressure. They're in this together. And I think that when you have young guys that are in a team, and certainly helped by the veterans, but truly are part of a team and a fabric and a coaching staff, I hope that they believes in them, and we can take some hits and move on, and nobody's going to, overreact. I think that's part of the reason those young guys can play in this environment. And I think the other part of it is they're wired like that. Like there's a real inner belief and confidence that these guys have shown that I very much respect.
Brett, you've been around the block a few times and coaching a very young team, but even with that, you've mentioned the word expedited a couple times. Are you surprised at the pace of the development of this team, given the new pieces, the health and everything? It seems like you guys are just on a jet stream up, and there's no sight of where it may end.
I think it's caught us off guard. There is no doubt about that. We've lived in sort of a place for a while, and so when you have a taste of success, it sure, feels good and tastes great. When you start, winning and advancing and so on, I would not be telling the truth if, you'd say you're going to predict this. I do feel over the past 2 months that we are trending in really positive ways, offensively and defensively. I think that our home court advantage and the record that we have had is real, it's factual. And so lately, there's a momentum in a belief that continues to grow. And it's born out of winning, it's born out of good people, it's born out of team, it's born out of not pivoting out of values in ways that we want to play that we've held on to for 5 years. It's not like we're doing that much differently now than we were when I first came. It feels better because here we are. But I think that we've stayed consistent with the way we wanted to build an organization. I think that helps.
Coach, for much of the season, you guys were at your best in the first quarter of games and sort of progressively worse as the game got on. I think you were the worst fourth quarter team in the league at the All-Star break. What's changed? Like this series, you guys were plus 78, I think, in the second half. What has changed in regard to closing games?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think it's all tied into what I've just said. I think we've stayed on to something and we haven't pivoted out of it. This is how we want to play offense. This is how we want to play defense. This is how we substitute. These are our crunch time plays. Like, this is just what we do. And, we've been able to just get incrementally better as the season has unfolded. And that's always the thing that makes coaches most proud of, is the fact that your teams get better. And this team really is getting better. And the pieces within the team are getting better, and so it all adds up. And you start doing those things I just said, and then you win, and then maybe you win again, and then you win 17 in a row, and things feel pretty good, and there's a confidence and a insulation that we have that we can do this. And we still work with tremendous sort of respect and gratitude of where we're at, but there is an inner belief that is emerging.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.